Good morning, everybody. On behalf of the Mount Washington Valley Economic Council, I greet you at the beginning of our, I think it's something like the 17th season of Eggs and Issues. I want to thank our ongoing sponsor, the New Hampshire Electric Co-op, that has been underwriting the costs so that we can bring these programs to you. First, I'm going to call up, is it Dan who's going to do the presentation? Dan Kennedy, who is our business sponsor, who is enabling Valley Vision to film the program this morning. Dan?
Thank you, Linda. Since 1989, Whitehorse Press has been publishing books for motorcyclists, primarily informational books for travelers. We also have a catalog and a warehouse store offering apparel, accessories, luggage, and a lot of other things for motorcycle travelers. I'll keep this short and just say that our contribution for today's discussion is that if you all ride motorcycles, you can save gas and save the planet. On the back table, we've got a few of our catalogs, if any of you are interested in seeing what we do. We also have a couple of little flyers that we've been printing for local hospitality establishments. As you probably have noticed, there are lots of motorcycle travelers who come into the area these days, and that's an increasing part of our summer visitor traffic. These little flyers help to introduce them to some of the great roads around here and some of the history of the area. So pick up one of these in the back if you'd like to see more about it. I think there's some on the tables here too. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. We're very fortunate this morning to have an outstanding panel, and I want to thank my advisory group that helped me put it together, in particular Bob Hoyt, who is the newest member of the advisory panel, who is responsible for one of our three panelists. As those of you who responded to either the email invitation or the newspaper copy, we have three distinguished folks who are experts in their field. Laura Richardson from the Jordan Institute, and I bet you can guess who Laura is. Joe Lajewski from New Hampshire Electric Co-op, and Keith Sampson from Competitive Energy. And without further ado, I'll have them introduce themselves in greater detail. So let me just, if you can do your mic, please. Okay, we're on.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone, for coming. This is a terrific turnout. I'm really excited to see so many people with such diverse backgrounds joining us today. My name is Laura Richardson. I'm the new executive director of the Jordan Institute. We're a small nonprofit based in Concord, New Hampshire, although I live in Benton, which is the other side of the Kank. And we help building owners make their buildings really, really energy efficient. We do this primarily in the commercial and industrial sector, but our work is focused mostly in New Hampshire, and we do have a presence throughout the Northeast with other projects that we've been accomplishing. So we're based in Concord. We started in 1995. And we've been evolving every couple of years. We recently spun off a for-profit subsidiary that's helping us with our project implementation work. And they're really taking the work that we do in the field, our fee-for-service consulting work, to the next level. And I've handed out a number of brochures on that new organization. It's called Resilient Buildings Group. And that in the field work is really what the Jordan Institute has been known for many years, in guiding building owners through the decision-making process, helping them with funding and financing, trying to figure out solutions so that they can really make their buildings as efficient as possible. We love energy efficiency. We love renewable energy. We don't like wasted energy, and we do our best to find comprehensive solutions so that buildings are just that much better. So our mission is based on climate change solutions, and it's something that really drives us, but we recognize that our clients may not have that as a first priority or even a 12th priority. And that doesn't bother us so much. Our focus is on finding solutions that address climate change and that are important for the community. Making buildings better is really important to the community. So our work is guided by the intersection of public health, the economy, and the environment. And you can really boost the economy by putting people to work making buildings better. The public health of the area can definitely be improved because of less emissions, less problems with indoor air quality, and the environment is also improved. By switching from fossil fuels, as an example, to something like biomass, wood pellets, or solar and solar hot water and solar electric systems, you really can sort of reduce the amount of fossil fuel that's needed and continue having a really high quality lifestyle. So what do we do? I've been meeting with a lot of people in the last 2 months since taking on the role as executive director. What do we do at the Jordan Institute? People ask me all the time. And so our role is to help building owners make their buildings really, really energy efficient. We do that through the in-the-field work that Resilient Buildings Group is now taking on. We do that through program development that's creating or helping to create energy efficiency programs that use public funds. There aren't that many public funds out there right now. But that is something that we have a good skill set in. And we do a lot of work with public policy. And so we are involved with the utilities in helping them figure out how the energy efficiency programs are developed and run in the state. We sit on the EASY board, which is the Energy Efficiency and Sustainable Energy Board. That's a group of about 40 different participants. We're a voting member of that group, and that advises the state on energy policy issues. We are involved with the state energy strategy, which is going to be rolling out in the next couple of months, figuring out next directions for the state as far as how energy will be used and what direction to take the state in. And we've also been working very hard on developing financing tools so that we can leverage the immense amounts of public financing that are available and currently are not being tapped. Finding a way to match that up with the real dire need that our buildings have for upgrades. So those are the three things that we do. And so I've talked a little bit about our mission and that we're climate change driven, but our clients are not. And so they're interested in saving money in their buildings. I think that's something that resonates with everyone on some level. But a lot of times that may not be the motivator. They may want their buildings to be more comfortable or durable, safer, better indoor air quality, better resale value, improved occupancy. Maintenance costs can be really high in a building that has poor energy performance. They may be prepared to make capital improvements on the building, replace a roof, and that's a great time to also add a lot of insulation. Absenteeism can be a real problem in uncomfortable buildings. People get sick because of poor indoor air quality or because it's always cold and they're just vulnerable. Some of our clients are really interested in sustainability and having a green building. That's their primary motivator. It may be about marketing, and it may be simply about good old Yankee frugality and avoiding waste. So our clients have a mix of different motivators, and they're all valid. National security is another one. Buying, fuel from a different, a place that's outside of the region, that's another motivator. We don't really care what the motivator is particularly because we feel that the solution, it always comes back to the same thing. Let's make our buildings more effective, more efficient. So we recently spun off this organization. It's a for-profit subsidiary owned by a nonprofit group. It's a little Interesting but business model, but everybody says that it's legal and it's kosher, so we're pretty happy about that. And we've got new leadership in our organization. I'm the new executive director. Dana Newt, who worked for the Community Action Agency for a long, long time, is now the general manager of Resilient Buildings Group. We're moving our offices across town to space that is more energy efficient. We like to say that in our case, the cobbler's kids have no shoes, and they're going to get some shoes. So we're pretty delighted about that. We are working on financing program solutions and reinventing ourselves as an energy think tank and resource center for materials to help business owners and building owners get better materials so that they know how to proceed with projects. And we're looking to scale up a lot of this work that we've been doing. So I'd like to spend some time talking about something that's called the split incentive. And this is a situation that our clients deal with all the time. And that is where the building owner is not the building occupant or is not the person, the entity that is paying the energy bill. And so you get this interesting dynamic where if you own the building, but your tenant has to pay the energy bill, there's a disconnect. You can't, it's hard to reconcile who's going to make the upgrades to the building, who values those upgrades to the building. And so when I was talking with Linda about this, she said that this problem is, this problem is throughout the Northeast, but that this area in particular is faced with a lot of rental units and a lot of energy being wasted because it's older building stock. And trying to find a solution, a happy place of how to fix these buildings and make it financially feasible, it's a really tough nut to crack. Just so that I know you guys are all awake. Is there anybody here who has faced that issue? Who has, okay. So it's a challenge, right? Where you can't raise the rent to make the building improvements, and at the same time, you don't want to. I speak softly. I think I'm shouting. You need to make your financial business model work, and so there are some interesting solutions that we've come up with that we've heard over time, and I'd just like to share some of that with you if that's interesting.
It is.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. So there are challenges, like short-term leases. If you're renting a unit for a year, or in a rental community where you're renting it week to week to week, then it's really hard to make improvements and to have people value that. The upgrades may not translate into increased rent, and so then how do you value that? Occupied buildings plus an energy efficiency improvement equals disruption. And people don't like disruption. They don't like to move their stuff. They don't like the noise. Inevitably, the building owner needs to have permission for that disruption, for that upgrade. There are high investment costs. To do a project comprehensively, it costs a lot of money. You can do projects in a phased course, but then your disruption time frame is spread out that much further, and you wind up with tenants who don't necessarily want to tolerate that. They'll move somewhere else. That's their solution. In buildings with multiple tenants, you wind up with staggered lease times, and that means that you can't just say, okay, at the end of this lease, I know that you'll be moving out, we can make the changes at that point. But inevitably you want to address the whole building, and you've got other tenants that also have leases that come due at different periods. So it's really hard to empty a building out to do a really comprehensive energy upgrade. There's always the issue of private spaces versus common spaces. So the tenant may pay for the utilities in their unit, but the hallways, the laundry rooms, the public bathrooms, the grand entryway, that may be a cost that's covered by the building owner every month. And so sort of coordinating all of that, again, trying to make things comprehensive, it can be a bit of a challenge. There are a lot of programs out there or there have been programs out there to rebate certain measures, certain energy efficiency measures. A lot of times people choose just to address the low-hanging fruit, the really easy projects to do with the minimal amount of disruption. That's very tempting. I certainly understand why people do that. It unfortunately creates a scenario where the bigger, more comprehensive work that really needs to get done is then put off that much further. And one example, we have a project that's in Cambridge where there's a former Catholic school that's being renovated into multifamily housing. Beautiful, gorgeous building. And a lot of the historic features are still maintained in the building. The building owner has decided that he will put LED lighting in the common areas, the hallways, the laundry room, the beautiful front main entryway, and he's putting incandescent bulbs into the apartment units because he doesn't have to pay that bill. And so, you know, his rebate will be based on the number of bulbs that he's putting in, and he will get some money back for the LEDs, but he's not looking out for his tenants ultimately because he doesn't pay that bill. That is a classic scenario of a split incentive, and it's a challenge, and it is what it is. And so the solutions that we've come up with are a little bit complicated sometimes, but if a building owner is really looking to make changes, or if a renter is really looking to make changes, we have found that these solutions work. A lot of it really starts with dialogue and talking with the tenants, talking with the building owner, explaining what the goals are and why there is a problem. You know, if a renter plans to remain, if a tenant plans to remain in that building for a longer period of time, they have some leverage. You know, no building owner wants to have their tenants leave. They don't want the open space. They have to do another fit up where they, you know, have to put new carpeting in and repaint the building, that sort of thing. They want to keep their tenants happy, and they want to keep them in the building as long as possible. And so dialogue really is the first important step. We've found that doing building rating systems helps, where you know where your building stands as far as other buildings. So there's a process called benchmarking to figure out the baseline energy used in a building and then compare it to other buildings that are like that within the region and across the country. It's relatively easy software, and it does have an impact on behavior. That once you know that your building really performs poorly compared to the buildings nearby, people get a bit of a competitive sense. And so that's been one method to focus on. There are certification programs like the Home Energy Rating System. Getting a HERS rating on a building definitely sort of gives you an idea where the building is, if it's doing pretty well. If it's not doing well, people don't want a certification. They don't want a label on their building saying that it gets a D, you know, right? I mean, you want to promote a building that's getting an A. And so that's one of the big things. Some of the larger buildings, you're seeing Energy Star certification going up on, you know, Staples and Kohl's department stores. A lot of the really big department stores recognize the value of energy, and they are really promoting the fact that they are energy efficient rewarding rewarding the tenant for lowered energy use is a solution that we have found helps. So if you do the benchmarking process, you figure out how much that building uses, and you average it out across the tenants, and you say, okay, you should be using, this unit really should be using this amount of energy every month. And if you go under that, we're going to give you a reward. That's great. If you're going to go over it, then we're going to start charging you more. We do have clients that have worked out a structure like that, and it does help everybody get energy costs under control. Occupant training is really good. That needs to be an ongoing issue where you have, annual meetings with the tenants in the building so that they understand how the building works and how they can save money, how they can be more comfortable. If the tenant's not paying the bill, they're not going to care. They want to be comfortable. I mean, that's a really important point that we feel we need to reiterate. They will do crazy things to stay comfortable. I mean, and crazy from an energy geek perspective, I say. They'll use space heaters. That's not really outrageous. But we've seen people put light bulbs right next to thermostats so that the thermostat registers a higher temperature, which will kick on the air conditioning. And so if the building is set to a certain temperature, even with one of those plastic boxes over it so that they can't manipulate it, they will do what they can to make it more comfortable for themselves. And that will cost, whoever's paying that utility bill, that will cost them a lot more money. Let's see. So occupant competitions help. And where you can sort of, if you have a group of multifamily buildings, we have one client who has a campus with 10 four-family buildings in it, and they set up a competition between the buildings, and which created a lot of cohesion and a little bit of fun for everybody, and who could get their energy use down the most. That brings awareness out to everyone. It's you start to think about all of the things that you're leaving on as far as lights and media equipment and getting better and better utilities and appliances. Another really great way to get things under control in buildings with multiple tenants is with thermostats. And that may seem really obvious. We did a project, a multifamily building in Claremont, did a major energy upgrade to that building. And there were 34 apartments in that building and 7 retail spaces on the bottom floor, 1 thermostat in the whole building. And so the people upstairs had their windows open because it was so piping hot in the winter, and the people downstairs in the retail space were freezing cold. Ultimately, there was one retail space that was filled. The occupancy rates were really low because it was just so uncomfortable. By doing a lot of comprehensive measures to that building and including thermostats in each unit, everybody was able to get things under control, and it's a much more comfortable building. So let's see. So we have another client who set up a revolving loan fund with their own money. So they took money out of their capital project budget, and they said, what we're going to do is we're going to start chipping away at these different projects, and we're going to pay ourselves back. We'll continue to pay our utility bill budget line what it has been, even though our energy costs will be reduced. And the money that we're saving, we're going to move into an account for future energy efficiency projects. And that way they could just keep chipping away at the work that needed to happen. That was a very innovative solution because, they're paying, their budget line is still the same, but they're making their building a lot more comfortable, and they're getting really great feedback from the building occupants. And then there was one other one other really good one. Oh, we have another, this wasn't a client, this was somebody I was talking to in a law office, where they were very uncomfortable because the air conditioning units that were installed on the outside of the building made a lot of noise. And this was a law firm where there are a lot of discreet conversations that happen, and people didn't want to project their voices to be heard over the air conditioning unit. It was a historic building, really beautiful building, and they didn't own the building, but they were paying the utility bills. And they struck a deal with the building owner that they would split the cost on a ductless AC unit system for the whole building. And that really significantly reduced the amount of noise that was coming through the air conditioning system, kept it very comfortable, did not affect the building structure at all. And it meant that the building owner felt confident that that tenant will stay in that space for a long time because they've made that investment. You know, if you have a 1-year lease with somebody on a residential basis, that's very common, they're not going to want to make upgrades. Why would they want to, buy new appliances if they then have to leave those appliances behind? You need to find these creative solutions of splitting the cost, or splitting the costs between owners, or making an agreement that you can take that equipment with you when you leave. There's just a lot of dialogue that is needed between building owners and their occupants to find those good solutions. So that's I guess that's about it. Ultimately, people will find solutions to their problems, whether it's putting a light bulb next to a thermostat so that it can kick on the air conditioning unit, or opening the windows on the upstairs floor in the middle of winter just because the heat that's rising through what's called the stack effect, the heat that rises is just gets so unbearably warm in these buildings, or they're going to move to different space and be more comfortable somewhere else. And that's not what you as a building owner would want to have happen. And frankly, it's a lot of disruption for the occupant too. No one wants to move. Speaking from experience, we're going to move our office in 2 weeks because our current space is not efficient and not comfortable. So we know this situation quite well. So thank you very much for your time and your attention, and I'll now hand it over to Keith,
Okay.
unless there are
Maybe
questions.
I have to put a PowerPoint on, so maybe. I definitely need to hook the PowerPoint to get that going on the screen. Hi, welcome. Keith Sampson, Competitive Energy Services. I'm here to talk a little bit about the other side of the business. My panelists are talking about using less, conservation, and how to take advantage of utility incentives. 50% in utility incentive is pretty inspiring for someone to do a project. I'm on the other side. I'm here to talk to you guys a little bit more about how to spend less on what you're actually having to buy. After you use less, you still have to buy some, and my job is to help you buy smart. There's a lot of different alternatives out there. We're going to talk about what's going on currently in the energy markets, and again, I appreciate having the opportunity to present today. Gotta make sure I got this thing going the right way here. Should have tested this earlier. How do I go page down? So Competitive Energy Services, we're an independent energy services firm based out of Portland, Maine. We have over 800 clients across the United States and Canada. We're supplier neutral, product neutral, technology neutral. Our job is to be an advocate for our customers in whatever aspect of energy that they're dealing with. We're an energy consultant. Our fees are completely transparent. We are very, very customized. Virtually everything we do tends to continue to evolve, and it continues to trend what our customers are asking us to do. And at the end of the day, we're on the client's team of energy decisions, energy procurement, helping our clients make the best decisions based on budgetary, based on their strategy, based on their business models, et cetera. So we assist in a lot of different areas. This is a very long list. There's virtually no aspect of energy that we don't touch. We have over 45 people in our staff that assist in analytical work, budgeting work, utility bill audits, fuel conservation, fuel arbitrage, changing from one fuel to the next. But the bread and butter of our business has been procurement. We were the first ever electricity broker in New England. So we have been in the deregulated procurement business now for 12 years. Since we've continued to morph and evolve with our customers' needs, in addition to electricity, natural gas, we also assist with heating oil, propane, RECs, all types of different procurement strategies. A lot of what we do today has to do with sustainability. We've hired by a lot of large institutions, colleges, and universities to become an extension of their facilities and sustainability teams. Selected clients in this area, thanks to Purity Springs Resort for sponsoring me to come here. SAU 9, SAU 13, SAU 68, Gorham Paper and Tissue, the City of Manchester, Concord Monitor, Dartmouth College, a lot of auto dealers in New Hampshire, Littleton Coin Company, and Cottage Hospital. So these are just a few of local businesses that CES works with. But I'm really here to talk about you. That's a pretty big picture with a lot of different options here. What's in your energy future? This is on the supply side. What I think you've been doing for the last 10 years is probably going to change in the next 10 years as the world markets and the world economy changes as it relates to fuels. And this is a very confusing and dark graph that's attempting to show you the world of change as it relates to fuels. In red we have heating oil, in yellow we have propane, and in green we have natural gas. Clearly you can see that the yellow continues to drop, propane continues to move away from the oil-based products, which is a good thing, and it's also a much greener thing. It's a lot less carbon. And then ultimately natural gas. We're in a revolution here in North America. It's the natural gas revolution. The find of shale gas and the abilities to extract gas from the ground have changed everything in this world, we think. And this is sort of the wave that many people are riding. It's a wave of change as it relates to everyone's ability to use natural gas as the source of electricity generation, because electricity generation is pretty much derived by the cost of natural gas here in New England, as well as the ability to heat and use process heat. There's other fuels that I have listed up here that also come in right around the same range as propane. There's now trucked gas called LNG, liquefied natural gas, and compressed natural gas, as well as wood pellets and biomass. And you can see by my chart here that even biomass and wood pellets as a commodity come in above natural gas. So we continue to struggle with sustainability and wanting to move towards becoming more green. At the same time, economics play into the picture, and it's hard to ignore the fact that natural gas is really, because it's so abundant, it's a very inexpensive cost source for fuel. This is a rather large table of a lot of information. I just point your eyes to the far right side. I do have this handout that everybody can take away. Pretty interesting chart when you start to compare. ULSD is ultra-low sulfur diesel, which is where heating oil is actually going towards. That's the standard that's now traded on the NYMEX at $25 an MMBTU, all the way down to wood chips at $5 an MMBTU. So there's a lot of different options here. Propane is one that's, again, I think a relatively simple decision here for people that are on oil and are looking to make a change to a less expensive fuel. What we have seen is people now wrapping a renovation project or an energy conservation project around savings associated with switching from oil to propane. In addition, implementing a number of efficiency measures around that project, bundling that as a financeable project, Some of the things that Jordan Institute's doing, we can tie the savings together. So there's creative ways out here to make these changes, but simple economics, return on investment, switching from oil to propane is a pretty simple decision these days, a couple-year payback in many cases. So our conclusions as it relates to the commodities, I'm here to just sort of give you an overview. Fuel prices are high right now, and likely will be high on a relative basis to where they are when they dip and have dipped over the past 4 years here in New England. Oil prices here in New England are still driven by world economics and world crude prices. And those world crude prices are tied up right now in geopolitical tensions in Libya and many other areas in the Middle East. There's a premium in the product that continues to trade on the NYMEX, and that's what you're paying for. There are dips in the market. That's our recommendation, is to try to come up with a strategy. We assist our clients with doing that, to try to buy when we have a dip. That really relates to any fuel that you're buying. The prevailing issues in North America tend to be the use of shale oil, the Keystone Pipeline, the Enbridge Seaway Pipeline, and then all the other geopolitics around that. The big question is, when do we buy? How long to wait? Can we go into a winter here in New England and not have a fixed price deal? The answer is yes, if you know what you're doing and you understand how to navigate that. Propane conclusions, it's definitely a viable alternative to oil. Here in the New England, we still we're tied to a relatively old infrastructure in terms of delivery. We have one pipeline that's very old and run down, and other than that, we're tied to truck and rail. Propane is abundant because propane is a byproduct of shale fracking. So you've heard about the shale revolution, all the shale gas that's going on in Pennsylvania. 25% of what comes out of those wells is liquid, and that liquid is propane. So there's abundance, almost a glut of propane. That propane, though, is being used by others as a conversion product from oil, the Caribbean islands, feedstock for the petrochemical industry. So while there's an abundance of propane, there's also increased demand for propane based on the economics. So there's a lot of different ways to work propane. One other big problem with propane is it's not as transparent. With oil, you can go on the NYMEX, you can go on the website, you can see what the price of oil is every single day. You can't do that with propane. It's no longer traded on the NYMEX. It's relatively difficult to see what that price trend is, and that's, again, a service that we help provide our clients. So there's a new horizon here, which is what we call a virtual pipeline, or a trucked gas. This is the ability now that's coming into the marketplace, coming very soon to a theater near everybody in this room, which is the development of taking natural gas off a pipeline, compressing it, or going through a cryogenic conversion to turn it into a transportable liquid that's transported on trucks that competes with, as you saw based on my numbers, propane and oil. And certainly it's more expensive than pipeline gas due to the cost of shipping and the infrastructure to build it. But this is something there's a large interstate pipeline that runs through this area, the PNGTS pipeline, and that's an asset to a growing business segment that there's lots of dollars being pumped into right now through the use of this natural gas and compressed natural gas. I'm not going to get into how it works, but compressed natural gas is basically compressed, put into a truck, transported, offloaded. Typically, the feedstock comes right out of the truck, and they basically rotate the trucks around. This is being used in large industrials. There's a number of different projects going on here in New England and in New Hampshire right now, and there's going to be more of it coming. Liquefied natural gas is a little bit more complex. It requires liquefaction, which is where they take the gas down to 260 degrees F, and therefore liquid. It's liquid. It's then transported, offloaded, and then it's vaporized, which is where it's warmed up and then injected into a system. So still a lot of projects, a lot of financing going on in this business, but 5 years from now, LNG and CNG trucks are going to be a part of our life just as oil and propane trucks are. That's our prediction. So our natural gas and power, again, you guys all have to buy electricity still. That comes through generation. That generation here in New England is primarily driven by natural gas. Natural gas is an abundant resource. We can continue to have demand, But here in New England, we do have an infrastructure problem, and it's likely to point towards higher electricity prices, at least for the next few years, that nobody really sees on the horizon other than, firms like ours where we're watching this stuff every day. And I'll give you a very brief overview of what's going on. The price of natural gas affects the price of electricity. And you can see out on the far right where the price of gas and the price of electricity spiked last winter. And maybe not every one of you felt it, but it's starting to creep its way into the market because it's going to continue to be a problem again this winter. And while we have an abundance of natural gas that comes from these shale plays, a lot of that gas production, as you can see in the slide here, is to the south of us in the Marcellus Shale down in Pennsylvania. The problem is the connectivity to that natural gas doesn't make its way into New England where the electricity generation sits. So a majority of our electricity and natural gas, or really more just natural gas, comes from the Canadian Maritimes, and it comes down a pipeline that comes from New Brunswick, and there's 4 major feedstocks that go into that pipeline for the coldest days of the year. It's Sable Island, Deep Panuke, Corridor Resources, and Canaport LNG. Each one of those is experiencing their own problematic problems. LNG is liquefied natural gas that comes from Qatar in South America. The world price for LNG is much higher than the price for natural gas in North America, so the tankers no longer go to Canaport. That was part of the feedstock that went into this pipeline. Corridor Resources is running out of gas. Deep Panuke is a deep well project that's yet to actually flow gas at any commercial level. And Sable Offshore is, again, a project that's running out of gas. They've used up a majority of the gas and they're having mechanical problems. What that caused last winter was a massive spike in natural gas prices and spot gas pricing, which caused a massive spike in spot electricity pricing. This year, ISO New England, that controls the grid, is very concerned about the reliability of the grid, the ability to have enough generation going into the grid now. And in order to do that, they've had to put oil in the tanks for generators that is going to cost the consumers money. So this is a big problem coming. Recently announced that Yankee was shutting down the nuclear plant in Vermont. As of December of 2014, Vermont will have very little of its own generation. And that generation's got to be made up somewhere. And it's likely to come from natural gas, only putting more strain on limited resources of actual pipeline capacity in New England. Abundance of natural gas all over North America. Here in New England, we have a supply problem. So what do? How do you get out of this? Part of what we do is we assist people with the procurement of electricity, natural gas, propane, and all other fuels. And it's a comprehensive program where we look at risk and finance and product and terms and what is your overall business objective. But you have to look at all these different pieces as you go into any buying decision and develop a strategy. General rule of thumb, for any type of product that you're buying, don't panic. Energy markets are volatile. The dips typically occur, and if you have a strategy, you can help buy those dips. Always bid. One of the things we do is we build a transparent and a robust bid. You want to compare apples to apples. You want to have like terms, and you want to understand all the different changes that occur. And multiple bids, going back out to bid multiple times to increase competition. One thing our firm does is we do an oil and a propane procurement collaborative where we put together a bunch of different buyers and help them buy their fuels. It creates competition. It creates a better marketplace for purchasing of fuels. So these are some things in addition to, if you're large enough, looking at alternative fuels. And there's a variety of different ways to buy a variety of different energy products, from electricity to oil to propane. You can go to spot, index. You can go to fixed term, fixed volume, fixed price. Again, it's all about understanding what your business model is and what your level of risk is. So part of what we do is we pull together an analysis that compares all suppliers and gives you sort of an overview. Actually, Bob brought his analysis with me today, Bob Hoyt from Purity Springs, and he said, "What do you think we should do?" And that was the conversation we had, and now he knows the story about the pipeline issues, and he's going to make the right decision for his business. So in summary, Competitive Energy assists in all these areas. Thank you all for attending, and if there's any questions, go ahead.
Try to keep it brief.
Yep.
up until early 80s, I'm going to say 82, 83, I'm a bad historian, so
Okay.
forgive my lack of accuracy.
It's fine.
Energy, you know, oil and the like were pretty much on the open markets and was pretty much price fixed by supply and demand.
Right.
Somewhere around early 80s, again, I forget exactly when, energy went on the commodities markets.
Right.
Since then, it seems that, you know, us as the end users,
Yeah.
the prices that we've been paying are more linked to these political, you know, the saber rattling in the Middle East and everything else.
Yeah.
And it has very little to do with supply and demand. Every so often there's a newspaper article or something about somebody making a move to take the energy back off the commodities markets and go back to supply and demand. Do you see any realities that could ever happen? Or are we pretty much stuck with, you know?
I think we're stuck with the world there is. There's billions of dollars of hedge fund money invested in commodities, right? So
Yeah.
that's what's fueling those prices. It's a hedge against dollar devaluation. It's a world traded currency basically is oil, and I don't see that going away in the world financial markets. It's just too big of an animal to control.
That's what I was afraid the answer was.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, again, if there's a way to control your destiny to something that's more supply and demand based, it's moving towards a natural gas or something that does actually behave less like a political, geopolitical, and hedge fund and trades more on basically fundamentals. So, okay, yes.
This natural gas thing
Uh-huh.
is going to make New England or New Hampshire particularly terribly non-competitive to other places.
That have the
Especially-
pipeline. Yep.
Yeah, that have the pipeline, that have resources that can buy heat and electricity at a fraction of its cost. They have rail, they have a lot of things that we just don't.
You're right.
We don't have.
You're right. It's a problem. That's why we got to get creative. That's why some of these solutions like CNG and LNG are coming into the marketplace. But those are still at a premium to what your competitor's paying that's sitting right on a pipeline in some other part of the country. Thank you. Yes?
I have sort of a simple question, which is, what size companies do you deal with? It sounds to me like from your slide presentation that you're really dealing with fairly large entities. And do you address small businesses or collections of small businesses?
And the way that small businesses can participate in this marketplace is through collaboratives. And so our company does tend to focus on the larger business segment, but there's many business models out there, and we've entertained a number of them, and we work with a number of collaboratives where it does make sense to pull together a bunch of buyers. When it comes to deregulated electricity, collaboration and aggregation in buying makes a ton of sense. Same thing holds true with fuels. So, and there are many different business models out there. You need to be careful. You need to do your research. In PSNH, there's many collaboratives, buying groups, opportunities for even residential customers to buy deregulated electricity. And some of those are great, and some of those have had their problems over the course of the past year. So the answer is do your homework, do your research. Collaboration helps. Yep.
The purpose of the commercial programs is to help influence the purchase and installation of energy efficient technology. In most instances, the incremental cost from going from a standard piece of equipment to a high efficient piece of equipment is relatively small. But one of the challenges is with everybody faced with budgets is you look at what's the cost right now. So these incentives help bring down that cost to help you implement some of the higher efficient technologies, which ultimately will save you a lot more energy over the long course. We also provide technical review of vendor proposals. So if you have a vendor proposing something, some sort of project, we'll look over it to make sure it makes sense, make sure that the key items are there. We can also help you identify your efficiency opportunities within your building. We're able to come by if you'd like and help to do what's referred to as a scope and audit to identify some opportunities, whether it's lighting, it could be heating and cooling, it could be building shell measures, motors, and things like that. These programs can also assist in the capital budgeting process. We have many members who utilize these incentives to help fund future projects, so it becomes a multi-year planning. So once they receive the incentive for this measure, they use that incentive to help fund their future projects. So instead of it just being a one project, it's a long-term planning process. The programs in the commercial, we have the commercial and industrial, which falls into 3 categories. You have your large customers who are greater than 200 kW demand a month. The smaller, and that has a $30,000 annual rebate cap. Your small customer, which would be probably the majority of the people in this room, is less than 200 kW demand a month. That particular program has a $15,000 incentive cap per year. And then there's also a new equipment and construction program. So if you're doing a gut rehab, a major renovation, that's a separate program where the incentive cap is $15,000 a year. And I'm going to go into all of these programs in more depth. The fossil fuel program is a $15,000 annual cap. We also have a heat pump program, which is a technology that has really taken hold. That incentive, you can get up to $25,000 per calendar year. We also have renewables, $20,000, and we have Smart Start financing of up to $100,000, which addresses one of the challenges that Laura had brought up earlier. So as we look at the large, small, and new commercial programs, these programs can offer incentives of up to 50% of the installed costs of some of the following technologies. You could be looking at lighting controls, occupancy sensors, refrigeration, energy efficient motors or ECMs, variable frequency drives, HVAC equipment and controls, chillers, compressed air, and pretty much any custom project that's able to have documented kWh savings. We'll look at to see if it qualifies. Now the fossil fuel program, that has the $15,000 maximum incentive per year. It's an incentive of up to 50% of the installed cost. This includes energy efficient boilers and furnaces, whether it's oil, whether it's natural gas, whether it's propane, boiler furnace controls, air sealing, insulation, and weatherization of your building. These will help reduce your overall energy expenses, but even more important in some cases, will help greatly improve the comfort of the building for your employees and your customers. The heat pump program, I don't know if you're familiar with what a heat pump is. These are these units that a lot of times you'll see in a building, a little unit on the wall. You see the commercials all the time for the mini split, Mr. Slims. You'll see the commercial for these are essentially mini split heat pumps. They can be air source, water source. This program covers ERVs and HRVs. As Bill had mentioned earlier, the heat pump water heaters. It's a great technology, very efficient, very responsive to heating and cooling demands. I've had one in my house for going on 4 years now. It's pretty much my primary heating and cooling system versus my 30-year-old oil boiler. And again, it's a lot more responsive as far as the heating time than the oil boiler I have. And then you get the added bonus of air conditioning that cools very efficiently. Renewable energy program, which has the $20,000 maximum incentive per year. It's commercial solar incentives of 25% of the installed cost. It covers solar photovoltaic or PV in solar hot water. Again, it's 25% of the installed cost for projects under 100 kW. These projects do have to be pre-approved, and then you sign over the recs, and we may require some monitoring of the system. Smart Start financing. Again, this kind of goes to one of the major challenges that Laura had mentioned with split incentives. The great thing about the Smart Start financing is there's no out-of-pocket expense. If the project qualifies, the co-op would pay for the cost of the project. That project would get repaid over 5 years using the projected energy savings. So if the project's expected to save you $1,000 a month, $750 of that would go to pay back the loan. The other $250 you would actually realize in energy savings. So there's no out-of-pocket expense, and essentially it's cash flow positive right from the start. And then after that loan period, you're seeing 100% of that savings. The financing is taken in lieu of the incentives, some of the other incentives that we had discussed. So it's not always the right fit for all businesses. But if you don't own the building, but you pay for the utility bills, it's a great option because now you're not paying for a project that's going to be in somebody else's building, because that loan stays with that meter. So if you were to move 5 years down the, or if you were to move 3 years down the road, the next tenant who is gaining the benefit of those measures, it's also paying for the cost, the remaining cost of that measure. So it's not the building owner, or it's whoever's actually occupying that space. It's also some common opportunities. I threw up some pictures here to try to help you guys see, do you have any of this in your building? Where do you start? Lighting technologies, you get some poor insulation, poor air sealing. You get an old oil boiler down there that is in real rough shape. Businesses that heat and cool with window air conditioners. Even the Energy Star window air conditioners aren't nearly as efficient as those mini split heat pumps. So if you see some of these things in your own building, chances are you have some great opportunities. So where do you start? A scope and audit can help to identify some of the opportunities within your building. Tackle some of the low-hanging fruit to start with. Start realizing some of those energy savings and put those energy savings towards some of the bigger projects. If you've got high wattage or dusk to dawn exterior lights, changing them to LEDs is a great opportunity. You've got old T12 lights. If you're not familiar with T12 lights, they've been phased out and are no longer being manufactured. You could still find them at some stores, but they're getting scarcer and scarcer, and thus the cost is going up. Plus, they're pretty inefficient. They're not efficient, and they don't offer good light quality. So changing those to high-performance T8s is a great way to not only reduce your energy expense, but greatly improve the light quality in the building. If you've got coolers, refrigerated cases, changing those lights to LEDs is a great option, not only for the energy savings, but now the LEDs put off a lot less heat than the T8s or the T12s that are in coolers. So you're putting less heat into a box that you're trying to cool down. Changing evaporator fan motors to ECMs typically is a low-cost solution. If you've got high bay fixtures, if you've got a warehouse with the big metal halides, changing those to either LEDs or T5s is a great opportunity. And one of the benefits of LEDs too is the life. If you've got a high bay fixture and you've got one that goes out, unless you have a scissor lift on staff, you've got to spend $300 to rent one to change a light bulb, and a week later, another one goes out. You know, you change LEDs, and essentially you won't have to touch those for a very long time. Exit signs. A lot of the old exit signs are incandescent, and they might have 1 or 2 bulbs in it. You know, an exit sign, if it's two-sided, might be 30 watts, and they run 24/7, 365. Something as simple as changing those to LEDs, you know, you might have a 6-watt fixture. And the difference doesn't sound like a lot, but the payback period is typically, you know, right around a year or less. So they pay for themselves really quick. And a lot of these small projects add up and actually can make a noticeable difference. Putting sensors in a room. You know, we talked about human behavior and changing practices and getting people to do things. That's tough to change people's habits. So whenever you can have technology that kind of takes the thinking out of it, whether it's programmable thermostats or sensors, those are good projects, because now you're not relying on somebody to remember to shut off that light when they leave the room. Also consider with these projects the avoided maintenance costs. You know, I talked about, you know, the high bay fixtures, you know, getting up and changing them, but you know, even with the fluorescent tubes, you know, which are in here, you know, over time the lifespan of them are a lot shorter than some LED opportunities. It doesn't mean that LEDs are going to be the right fit for everything, but you know, being able to look at some of these other technologies, there may be more benefits than just your energy savings. It could be reduced maintenance costs as well. And integrate these energy efficiency measures into the capital planning process. It's always very difficult if you try to look at a project, one project at a time, year after year, without putting a long-term strategy in place. You know, put together a 3 to 5 year plan on projects and how you want to be able to do this. This way you can get the capital for it, and you can put it into your budget, and you can start seeing the savings a lot sooner. A couple of case studies. We had energy savers in Meredith. They replaced over 170-watt spotlights, just those screw-in spotlights that, you know, you see in a lot of commercial buildings, with 13-watt LEDs, and they changed some old T12 fixtures to high-performance T8s. Savings are around $2,400 a year, and it greatly improved the lighting quality. Now, those spotlights put off a lot of heat, so they noticed almost right from the start a reduced air conditioning load. I mean, you'd walk by some of these banks of spotlights, and you could almost take your shirt off and start tanning. And the simple payback was just over a year after the NHEC incentive. So, I mean, it was a real quick payback project. After that year time frame, the projects paid for themselves. They're actually realizing $2,400 in their operating budget. Business X in Northfield, an HVAC replacement. The original proposed equipment wasn't efficient enough to qualify for incentives. So after talking with us, they were able to get a proposal for higher efficient equipment, which would qualify them for a $1,200 incentive. The incremental cost of that higher efficient equipment was about $2,500. But the kicker is the anticipated additional energy savings from that higher efficient piece of equipment was about $2,200 a year. So again, yeah, that $1,200 is great, but you start looking at it, the real winner here is the fact that there's going to be an additional $2,200 of savings year after year after year. Plymouth State University, a couple projects over the past year. 5 VFDs installed on their heating and cooling equipment, air handlers, was projected to save around $10,000 annually. They installed an air source heat pump into the library. They've installed LED lighting and replaced old T12 lighting, and the projected annual savings from the projects over the past year and a half was about $10,000. they utilize that process of planning projects out over a 5-year plan, and they utilize those incentives to fund the next round of projects, and that's how they're able to really kind of make a big impact on the amount of energy they use. And obviously, being a university, they use a lot of energy. A school, SAUY, a vendor had proposed an LED, proprietary LED tube retrofit for all the lights in the school system. These are just linear LED tubes with a projected cost of just over $100,000 with a savings of about $28,000. As we reviewed it, we had noticed that the vendor had used 3,600 annual hours for every light fixture in the school, which is very high for a school system. Typically, most schools you're looking at 1,700 to 2,500 hours for the higher use fixtures. So with that, the vendor revised their energy savings to $20,000, which is a significant reduction, 29%. And what this goes to show is, in addition to the incentives, by having an independent set of eyes also look at some of these, it's kind of a check and balance, to see, okay, is there anything that's jumping out here that just doesn't seem to fall in line? Some of the key takeaways, all these projects, all these programs do need pre-approval. So come to us before you're signing contracts or moving forward something, so we can help you through the process and make sure that the equipment qualifies. The projects do have to pass a cost-benefit analysis, so not necessarily every single project qualifies. They do have to be cost-effective. The rebates that we discussed, the rebate maximums are per program year. So once the calendar year flips, you're eligible for all those programs over again. So it could be a significant amount of money, especially if you're planning your projects accordingly. And you can utilize multiple programs. That slide that I had, all those different numbers, you could utilize every single one of those programs every year. And just make sure, again, to contact us prior to undertaking any project that could have a KWH or thermal impact, because there may be incentives available. And because you need pre-approval and these are incentives, you want to come to us prior to implementing the project. And that was my brief presentation. Any questions? Yes?
How come public service isn't here?
I can't answer that question, but
Could you take over my poll for me?
the programs, most of these programs, some of these programs are exclusive to New Hampshire Electric Co-op, but most of the commercial programs are New Hampshire core programs, and you can find out if you go to PSNH's website, you can see the same programs, or if you go to nhsaves.com.
How about Desire? Is everything pretty much up to date on the Desire website?
That's a good website, but because of the vast amount of information on there, I think that there may be some lags on updates on some of those. But I would say if you go to New Hampshire Saves or your utilities website, you could have more accurate, up-to-date information. I did bring in some New Hampshire Saves catalogs. They're on the table at the back there, which is a good catalog, too, that you can order directly from. You can get compact fluorescent lights, the little CFLs for as low as 20 cents a bulb, ordering directly through that catalog, as well as a variety of other products.
The co-op does permit group metering, correct? Which public service does not have yet. So you can put your PVs on one building on one meter and pay down another meter.
That is not my area of expertise.
Not yet. We're looking into it. But I think you could help me with that as well. It's, I think you're talking about community
Oh,
Yeah,
metering.
well, my situation, I get two separate meters, same property. Barn is ideal for the PVs.
Yeah.
But until the group metering gets implemented, all I'll be doing is heating the chicken coop. And when the house.
Sure.
So I
That's
know it's
something
been
we are
passed, it
looking
hasn't
into.
been implemented yet.
Yeah. So we're not there yet, but we are looking into that because it makes sense. You have a perfect opportunity to put up solar PV in location A, but you want to put it on location B where you want to use that energy. Well, it's gotta make sense.
I think every place else does it.
Yeah.
So they just-
So,
If you were putting that, if it's your own property, both meters are yours. It's a credit, are both meters yours, or are they?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a credit on your bill, which is, my basic understanding of this is it would be net metered. PV system would be net metered.
But it's a different meter.
Yeah, there wouldn't be a
There's an
drawdown.
issue.
You wouldn't have one to draw it down from. So if the PV's on the chicken coop and you're always spinning that meter backward, you would have a credit that would just keep building up. And PSNH does not cut checks. I think the co-op does cut checks
Yes.
for that.
But they also won't credit it to the other account.
And they won't,
Right.
but they will, once they go through the rulemaking process of the Public Utilities Commission on group net metering, the bill did pass, it did get signed into law. And it does take some time for that to happen. But,
Run some extension cords.
That's what I'm trying to avoid. Copper's gotten pretty expensive.
I believe you had a question on the front?
Yeah,
Joan?
I'm working on a project where we're asking people to use, see if they can experiment with Portfolio Manager, and they will ask, say a municipality might ask the electric co-op, say, can I have my bills for the last 3 years? And is that easy to do, to get billing from previous 3 years on, say, a town hall, and directly, rather than just get it on a screen and then laboriously enter it into this Energy Star Portfolio Manager? And I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
Do you? All right. Can that just go electronically from here to there, or is there a human element involved that would drive people crazy?
I don't have, I'm not involved on the billing side, so.
If you want, I'm Judy Go from New Hampshire Electric, and I can speak to that briefly. I know the local energy working group, and Bill, you're a part of that group, is working on this proposal. And I think this stems from the recent legislation that was passed with the $2 million that are needed to support the municipalities. And I'm not sure they've worked that issue out. That is one of the issues that I think you were talking about. So I really don't think they've come up with a solution for it yet. Laura, you may have something new on it, but as being part of the
my
EC board.
understanding is it's still labor intensive. You still have to take it from one system and rekey it. And it is not a streamlined process, and each utility, displays their data slightly differently, and I think they're working on it.
My firm has a utility tracker product that's software-based, and then we have a scraper, and it is basically a PDF reader that takes that PDF document and it does move it automatically. So, there's ways to do it, that it would be nice if you could just pull the data in Excel.
Right, yeah,
From the
our
utility.
theory was that if all municipalities and school districts were
Are
able to
required.
track it and do it
Right.
in a common way,
Right.
and then use each other's data to look at how come that building at the same size as mine is using so much less or more.
That's the intent of portfolio manager, exactly.
Right, so I mean, that's stage one of, I've got to do something. Yeah.
Right, and that's the benchmarking that I was talking about, that
Right.
really helps you figure out where you stand with your building relative to other buildings.
But if the hurdle is so high that you're essentially asking office employees who are already up to here with stuff to do something else, there's just, you say, why are you pushing back? So, well,
You can hire an outside firm to do it, but that obviously adds cost too.
and there may be an initial cost if you're doing 3 years worth of stuff, but then on a month-to-month basis, once you get going,
That's right, that's how we bill it, is the initial upfront, and then it's a maintenance fee after.
Okay, time for one more.
Yes.
Just a question to the co-op. Is the Rural Electrification Act still in effect?
I would,
In regard to developing a piece of property that at the present time is not adjacent to any electricity?
I would defer that to either Judy or Bill.
If it's in co-op service area, then the co-op will do what we can to work with you to
it depends on where it is. The lines are drawn.
Yeah, no, it's not in your area, it's in Pads Neighbors, and they ignored that question and want an exorbitant price to bring electricity to the project when they used it to only be standalone.
I'm happy to take your
Yes, I mean,
information and get
where
back.
it leaves.
I'm happy to talk to you about it after. We'll take your information and we'll discuss something.
Okay, I want to thank our panelists. I think they've provided us with a nice range of information, and I imagine they'd be willing to entertain additional questions after we're finished, and we have small tokens of our appreciation for each of you.
Thanks so much.
And I just wanted to make mention, our October guest speaker is Dan LaRochelle. He's the regional manager of the Robotics Education and Competition Foundation for New England region. And he's going to talk about how robots can be used in businesses and how robots, the competition that we're now having nationally with robotics is helping kids learn both software as well as the actual construction of the robot. So I think it'll be a very interesting program. And be afraid, because they're going to take over everybody's jobs. Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Dave with the Masonic Angel Fund. I'm at Washington Valley Masonic Lodge. What we do is we're a nonprofit organization. We sponsor breakfasts to benefit other charities. Also, the Angel Fund, again, is a nonprofit run by Masons to benefit local children who fall through the cracks. We provide clothing, essentials, food, transportation, and tuition for school and after-school activities at no cost. For further information, please contact us. Email would be angelfund@mtwashingtonlodge.com.
We're getting ready to do the cow patty bingo right now. We got Buster the steer. He's not really a cow, he's a steer. But Buster's a very friendly Guernsey, I believe. And Buster lives in East Conway, belongs to our friend over here, Vicky. And Buster's going to come out here now in about 2 minutes. And Buster's going to let loose somewhere in this big field that we have. And wherever he does, we're going to measure. And some lucky winner is going to win $250 or a 2-night stay at the Hampton, or a 2-night stay at the Red Jacket, or a 2-night stay at the Bernerhof. So we're getting ready, and our friend Darrow from the Wentworth Meat Market was kind enough to transport Buster over here. And I think we're getting close, aren't we, Darrow? We're going to put Miss Vicky right here to block the way. And we're getting the Levitts over here right now, who are the recipients of the money that we've raised. Now, I'm not sure. Rich, come on around. I want to bring you over here. Brenda, come on around, Brenda. Brenda and Rich Levitt have been busy selling, pre-selling bingo tickets for the Cow Patty Bingo. And they've been selling them online thanks to social media. They were able to pre-sell over $4,000 worth of bingo tickets for the bingo drop. So then I guess the rest is up to Buster. Buster's going to have to take over the show from here. But here's Brenda and Rich. And Brenda, come up here and tell us a little bit about all the hard work that you've done. Because I was just telling the folks that you have pre-sold, what, over 4,000, it's probably gone up since then, that you pre-sold before we even got here. And then you sold more here. So tell me a little bit about what you think you've raised so far with Buster the Bingo.
Buster the Bingo. We actually, by this morning, we had over $5,000. And I would venture to say through the day, we're probably close to $7,000 in fundraising.
Just to watch Buster do his thing here. And we've, thanks to Freiburg Fair, they have given us this big fenced-in area. And I'm not sure how much. Rich, how big is this? What did this measure out to? 105 by... 104 by 320, so that's a lot of 4-foot squares. And what? 4 by 10 squares? Okay, so what Buster's going to do is walk out here, and Rich has got it gridded out into big grids, and wherever Buster drops, he will measure out and be able to tell whose spot Buster did his thing on. So, Darryl, let's bring Buster on out. Thank you, Miss Vicky, for lending us. Yeah, gonna be used as. All right, so Buster has probably had something to drink and something to eat, right, Darryl? And he's like, "What the heck is going on here, and why am I here?" Easy, Buster, good boy. And there he goes. Let's hear it for Buster. And now we're gonna he's gonna want to get back in. He's gonna probably. Oh, Buster, look for the spot. Where do you want to go? Look for your favorite spot. And he goes, so this looks like a good place to go. Now, maybe over here. Why is everybody looking at me? Where's the food? I want to know where the food is. Let's see. This is a big playpen. What's that white line all about? Follow the chalk line. And Buster's not shy at all. He's just going to roam around out there. And he doesn't seem to mind that everybody's watching and waiting for him to do his duty. But let's see how long it takes Buster to do something. He seems to like the other end of the ring. For some reason, he wants to go down there and see what those people are all about. And that's all blocked off down there, right, Rich? So, yeah, so he's, whoops, let's see, almost saw a spot. It's like Buster the Wandering Bull. That's no crap. So I wonder if we can get Buster to come back this way. He's not going to get out down there, is he?
Called me yesterday and said you got 24 hours to sell this and earn some more money. So we've been doing very well with that sale as well, but we still have a little time left on that one.
Wonderful. And have you sold a good fair amount of tickets there too as well, right?
Yes, we have. I would bet that we've sold probably close to 1,000 tickets at this point.
So Brenda, tell me, do you think we're going to get close to the $10,000 mark with this event, all told, when you add up everything?
I would love to think that. I truly, truly would. I think that it would be a great beginning helping people in our community with their diabetes needs, and we've got a lot of education to do on diabetes and healthy diet and eating.
Wonderful. And what is your long-term plan? I know you've been working hard for many years now for the Miranda Levitt Diabetes Fund and getting the word out and everything, but what, in a perfect world, Brenda, what would you like to see?
Well, in a perfect world, I think I would like to stop fundraising and be told that there's a cure for diabetes. That would be the perfect world.
Now, we want to keep our eye on Buster because he might decide to come over here. I got to block this hole over here. I'm going to throw my body between the truck here and Buster so that he doesn't break out. Watch out, John, because I hear he does gore people. And Buster loves to make friends, especially with pretty women. He's always found his way to the ones with skirts. I'm not sure why that is, but...
Got him at the Freiburg Fair about 6 years ago, and he was supposed to be a stunted cow.
What's a stunted cow?
A little one.
Oh.
And I had a Nissan Pathfinder, and we were able to...
He did like stunts.
No.
You know, like jump through over the moon.
No, and he turned out to be a lot bigger than I thought he was going to be.
Buster is not a stunted cow.
No.
No, he's not even a cow, Vicky.
He's a steer.
Yeah.
I'm a wannabe farmer.
So Buster's been living over on your farm. It used to be Bobby's Ice Cream Shop, right?
Yep.
Over on East Conway Road.
Yep. Yep.
And now it's actually back to being a barn and a farm, and you've got...
You have horses and
don't you have a
sheep
donkey?
and goats,
Yeah,
and
you
a
got
donkey. Just don't have a pig yet.
Yeah, no pig
No
yet?
pig yet.
Well, maybe we should have brought the donkey or the... I mean, Buster doesn't seem to be doing his, what he's supposed to do.
He's kind of overwhelmed, I think.
You think that he's...
Well, because he's afraid of our horses, and he never gets to roam around like this without somebody chasing him.
Oh, so this is quite unique. Buster's happy here,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Is what you're saying.
Oh yeah. He loves people because where we live, everybody stops by and they'll go right over to the fence, and he's
Well,
always looking for treats.
Yeah.
So-
So that's how I met Buster.
Yes, that's right.
So it took Buster a while, but we finally got our cow patty plot. Now we're going to measure. Rich is going to come out and measure to find out who the lucky winner is of the $250 or the 2-night stay at the Hampton or the 2-night stay at the Bernerhof or the 2-night stay at the Red Jacket. We want to thank all of our sponsors, and we look forward to more activity and fun tonight. What could be more fun than watching Buster? So paint drying, maybe.
Hi, I'm Bill Edmonds, the station manager of Valley Vision Channel 3. For the past 15 or more years, the Mountaineer has graciously agreed to print our broadcast schedule. But as many of you know, in September, the Mountaineer will be changing its format to that of a monthly magazine, and as such will not be able to print our schedule. Therefore, when that happens, please turn to Valley Vision's website at www.valleyvision.com to see our schedule and find your favorite programs, meetings, and sporting events. Thank you.
The Wind Symphony, ladies and gentlemen. How about that?
Ladies and gentlemen, before we get into our grand finale, could you please welcome the ever-elegant John Colbath from Arch Jubilee.
Good evening again, and from the Board of Directors, thank you for your support. The following people have won prizes tonight, and if you're here, you can pick them up at the Arch Jubilee tent. Mr. and Mrs. James Haston, Mountain Coaster Rides for Attitash Mountain Resort. Ryan Hill, gift certificate at Black Cap Grill. Mary Walton, gift card at Bootleggers. Suzanne Conifee, gift certificate at Chick Home Center. Mike Stevens, gift certificate at Combing Attractions. Valerie Smith, a family value pack at the Conway Scenic Railroad. Terry Toner, a pair of Adventure Park passes here at the Cranmore Mountain Resort. Also Mary Lavoie, Anytime Happy Trails Seasons Youth Pass at Cranmore Mountain Resort. Darren Leahy, one-day rental at Eastern Mountain Sports. Neil Darcy, 2-night stay for 2, excluding holidays, at either the Eastern Slope Inn or Attitash Mountain Village. Gary Loverin, a gift certificate for Flatbread Company. Marilyn Strozzi, a day trail pass for Great Glen Trails. Carolyn Lobin, gift certificate at Levitt's Bakery. Norma Alexander, guided tour of vehicle pass at the Mount Washington Auto Road. Gina Sullivan, North Conway Country Club, Larry and Kathy Gallagher Pro Shop, a gift certificate. Tony Graffio, gift certificate at New England Mountain Sports. Judy Dunlop, gift certificate at Pearl Eisen Factory Outlet. Nancy Fitz, family package for 4 at Pirates Cove Adventure Golf. Elise Edgerton, ski tickets at Purity Spring Resort. Laurel Smith, day passes at Storyland. Kathleen Simpridge, $10 gift certificate at the Bike Shop. Laura Gorman, Toy Chest gift certificate. Art Conroy, midweek green fees for 2 from Kevin Wentworth at Wentworth Golf Club. And Tim DePietro, the gift basket from Zeb's General Store. As always, thank you, Arch Jubilee fans.
Thank you, John. As the grand finale to our Broadway salute tonight, we can't think of any better way than to pay tribute to the man known as Mr. Broadway, George M. Cohan. He was known as the man who owned Broadway, and his music has become synonymous with America as well as the Great White Way. The 1968 musical George M., starring Joel Grey, paid tribute to Cohan's life and music, which has inspired Americans for more than a century. And now, once again, here's Clayton and the Wind Symphony as they perform the great music of Mr. Broadway, George M. Cohan.
Thank you, George. And most of these selections you probably know, so please, we encourage you to sing along. I don't think you need lyrics to a lot of them. You probably know the tunes, so just belt it right out there. I know 1 or 2 of you will do that. Thank you very much. If you would please keep clapping for Mr. George Cleveland. What a fantastic job he did narrating. George Cleveland. And if you would, please, it's certainly our pleasure to be back here after all these years, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future, but also a nice round of applause for Cindy Russell and everyone at Arch Jubilee and Mount Cranmore to make these concerts happen. And I understand because of the weather tonight, we will not have fireworks. I know, unfortunately. But we're going to end the concert the way we normally would anyway. We hope that you will clap along and leave in a nice patriotic mood. Thank you so much for coming and hope to see you again soon. Have a nice evening. Thank you all. See you next year.
My name's Sam Malney, and I'm with Adaptive Sports Partners of the North Country, and we are based in Franconia, New Hampshire. We provide recreational opportunities for people with disabilities. Year-round, non-for-profit organization, all disabilities from physical to developmental. For more information, you can go to our website, www.adaptivesportspartners.org.